Alright, hey, how you doing YouTube? Welcome back to the studio. Yes, we're back from the Long Island Retro Gaming Expo, and it was a great time. I was a little bit nervous about submitting an application, and I was a little bit anxious about actually going, so completely unprepared. But I'm so glad that we did. It was a huge event. It was an awesome time. I will be making a recap video on what people's reactions were to some of the games that we showed. So if you're interested in that, definitely check that out, and make sure you give a like and subscribe. Right, so now that we're back and we've hammered out some of the production issues that we've been having, we can finally go full throttle here on our primary agenda, the GB Compo 2025. So I was able to do a little bit of programming at the event, not too much. It wasn't an environment that was super productive for me, especially on a laptop. But I also took the day off yesterday to do some programming, so we've made some progress. So let's go ahead and jump in and see where we're at. Okay, so here's our update. Not too bad progress considering, you know, we've put in maybe like 15 to 20 hours of real coding time so far. But you can see, did get the HUD working. We did use the interrupts to get the HUD at the top of the screen. And you can see it's tracking our score. Remember, our score is basically how high you've climbed. I can pull up the test here. So if you remember, basically the point of the game is that these blocks are going to be dropping down from above. The lava is going to be creeping up from below, and you're trying to avoid the lava and basically just wall jump on these blocks and try to climb as high as you can. So the HUD is pretty basic, but it's fine for now. It's doing its job. You can see we also have some basic movement, some basic physics for Bob. So this is something that I was trying to tweak and dial in during the event, but I don't think I can finalize it until I get the blocks to really see how this is going to feel in relation to the height of the blocks and things like that. It's pretty close though. You know, with a game like this, you kind of want to, I don't want to make that comparison, but you kind of want to go with the like Celeste or Meat Boy kind of thing, where you really want tight controls. But I didn't want it to be too tight. I did want it to have a little bit of weight. So this is kind of work in progress right now, but I think it's pretty close where it is. I think it feels pretty good. It's pretty snappy. It's pretty responsive, which is definitely something you want with this sort of game. And we were also able to put in some states for Bob and some animations. Again, I'm not an artist. This is just a first attempt. I don't know if I'm gonna go back and clean this up, but this running animation, I can show you guys. I was trying a bunch of different running animations, and this was the first one that made me laugh out loud when I saw it. So I'm kind of partial to this running animation. Something about it is just so hilarious. He's working so hard to move forward. Just to give you guys a little bit of a look into how crazy my Sprite workflow is. Here I've got 10 different versions of running animations, which are all sort of slightly different. So definitely something that I need to work on in the future. Anyway, the last thing I was able to add is this looping mechanic here, which is not super complicated to implement. I think it might introduce some problems later on, but it is pretty expensive. And there are some concerns, you know, if I pull up that Sprite again. You know, if a block is like right on the edge, then you shouldn't be able to move left in this instance, right? Because that block is right here, so it should block you. Things like that are probably going to be kind of difficult, but also something that we'll just deal with when we get there. So that's it for the update. That's where we're at. Not too bad progress, all things considered. We still have to add in the blocks that are going to be dropping down. We still have to add in the lava and do all the collisions for that. We also have to do the wall jumping. I've done a little bit of wall jumping in the past. I didn't love the way it felt and what I came up with. For this game, we have to nail it. We do have to get a good feeling wall jump, because that's going to be like a make or break feature for this game. But anyway, today is August 12th. and the compo ends at the end of August, so we have what, something like 18 days or something like that. I think we might make it. I think we might be okay. I think we can get something done by the end of the month that feels like a decent demo. So let's keep at it. So that's it for the update. I did want to talk a little bit about some Game Boy development and go into the deep dive of the cycles. So if you're doing Game Boy development, something that you always have to be mindful of is the cycles. Let me show you what I mean. So this is early days, right? We just started our game, we don't have any blocks that are dropping, we don't have the lava, and already at an idle position, we're at like what? 35%? 35% of the CPU. If you go over 100, you're not going to have 60 FPS. So that is a little bit concerning. I mean, 35% is not awful. You can see if I start moving around and jumping around, it does jump up to 41%, and I'll show you why that is. A lot of that expense is coming from the fact that we're using tile replacement to do our animations for Bob. You can see in our VRAM, I'm actually directly updating the tile data, some people call it pattern data, to do the animations for Bob, which is not a cheap process to do on the Game Boy. It does save you VRAM space though. So that accounts for some of that spiking you can see when I start moving around, but where are we at idle? We're at like, 35 to 38%. Some of those cycles are definitely the HUD display. I am rendering the HUD display whether you change any height or not, and that is a pretty expensive process to convert the uint16 to ASCII and then render those onto the HUD every frame. It's not cheap. Let me show you what I mean. So I'm using Emulicious here. With Emulicious you can go to the profiler, if I can pull that up. Let's start the profile, let's restart it. Now, this profiler is a little bit weird just because of the way that I write my code. It's not the profiler, it's not Emulicious, it's my code, so it's a little bit weird, but you can see here, I've got finalize HUD main and draw the HUD. It's 5.9 cycles percent and 3.3%. That's kind of high. We might have to try to do some optimization there. But even if we did, I don't know, we might save like 1 or 2% at most. It kind of is what it is. Just converting uint16 to ASCII characters to render them, it's kind of an expensive process. So if you're thinking about getting into Game Boy, you can start to see where some of the headaches are coming from here. You have to be really mindful of your cycles because everything is expensive. So the other thing that's adding more cycles to our logic here is the looping. So you can see if I stop halfway, I've got 2 sets of sprites here. What I'm actually doing is just maintaining 2 meta sprites to make that happen. And again, just another thing that's kind of more expensive than you might think it is just rendering meta sprites. Let me see if I can find it here. Yeah, here it is. Draw sprites main, 5.6%. So it's like something like 2.5%, almost 3%, just to render 2x2 meta sprite. So all these things, they slowly add up. Actually, one more thing I forgot to mention, if I do a soft reset here, you're gonna see these pretty big spikes. That is the submap. Submap, fortunately with this game, we only have to, it's like streaming in tiles. We only have to stream in tiles for the background in the vertical direction. We don't have to worry about horizontal, and we don't have to worry about doing vertical and horizontal at the same time if you just so happen to land on a diagonal pixel. So we can save some cycles there, but again, just one of those things that's way more expensive than you might think it is. So alright, so right now we are peaking at 44%. We're using 44% of cycles for our game, and we've only just started. We haven't added in the blocks, we haven't added in the lava, we haven't added in wall jumping, so it's making me a little bit nervous. Honestly, if we want to do 60 FPS multiplayer for this game, which is definitely something that I want to try for, we're really going to have to add all those things and keep it like around 60%. Because if we're going to do multiplayer, we're going to have to double up the logic and do all the physics and collisions for the other player as well. And then also still have enough cycles to do the actual SIO transfer. So I thought this was going to be kind of a easy game. It might not be the case. We might have to do some serious optimization to get this game working. But you know, it'll probably work out. And that's our update. Pretty good progress so far. We've got a very long ways to go yet. But I do think that there's hope that we can make a decent demo for the GB Compo 2025, and that's all you can hope for, you know. So, I'm gonna wrap it up for this episode. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take it easy.